Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guests today are two folks from Hospice Northwest, Sue Raynack and Joan Williams. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks so much for joining me here.
Thanks.
Now, I know a little bit about Hospice Northwest because I read a book that you guys published recently, which was really chronicling people's individual experiences being involved. Before we get there, though, tell me a little bit about yourself. Sue, let me start with you. What's your background? Are you a Thunder Bay girl, or?
I am. I'm born and raised here. I spent most of my professional life as a dental hygienist, and I worked in private practice, and then went to the Confederation College and was a coordinator of the dental hygiene and dental assisting programs at the college. When I decided to retire, I was looking for something to do and fill my time, and I came upon Hospice Northwest, which really was a great opportunity to learn something new and get involved in the community in a new way.
How did you happen upon Hospice Northwest?
Well, I had there had been ads in the paper in the late summer. Hospice Northwest puts a advertisement in the paper and on the radio, offering an opportunity to learn more, and they have an excellent education program that teaches you most of what you need to know to go out and do the volunteering. So that's the first time. And but then you have to hear about it from other people, friends and family, who talk about it as well to reinforce the idea that it's a good one. And so there were a few different opportunities to learn more about it. But I would say the radio and paper were the first ones and the best ones.
Cool. So you're now a volunteer.
Yes.
All right. So let me go to you, Joan. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you a Thunder Bay native?
Well, pretty well. I've been in Thunder Bay for most of my adult life, for sure. I was born in Terrace Bay, but so didn't go too far from home. And I've been with Hospice Northwest now for over 20 years. I'm in the privileged position of being the executive director and having had lots of opportunity to communicate with and to relate with many of the hospice volunteers who are absolutely marvelous people. I feel very privileged to be part of Hospice Northwest. I feel like we are the agency that allows connection between people in the community, just regular folks, many of whom have experienced the death of a loved one. Many people feel that that has changed them, that they've learned some new things, they've gone through something really big, and they want to help others. So they come to our agency for training and education and support, and then we match them. We, of course, accept referrals for people who are struggling with end-of-life issues, and we match the volunteers with the clients and families, and then the magic happens. And it really is just, it's really wonderful how much the gift of companionship can assist people, and how much because people are volunteering, they're bringing the gifts of themselves to their clients, and that's what makes the magic, is that it's not a professional role, and they're not restricted really in their role. I mean, obviously there's some things that we do and some things that we don't do, but there's every opportunity to bring their personality and their special hobbies and that sort of thing to their work. And like I say, there's magic happens in that people get together, and we might match them on the basis of our sort of standard criteria, and then they get together and they discover all kinds of similarities and things that are going to make their relationship a really special relationship. And that relationship allows the client a good confidential listener, so that they have an opportunity to express themselves and prepare for one of the biggest things that they're ever going to go through in their lives, and that is their death. And to help the families as well, and to make the practical arrangements. So it's really wonderful work.
And it is inspiring to me because I know from my own experience dealing with injured workers, you run into a rough patch in life, without the support, without the companionship, it's really hard to get through that tough spot. And a lot of people end up isolated. And of course, at end of life, lots of times people are isolated already. A lot of their families maybe has already been gone. And so what you're doing is, that providing that companionship is wonderful. Joan, you mentioned you've been involved for 20 years. If I remember when I read the book about Hospice Northwest, that you're also one of the founders.
No, actually, I'm not. The agency was founded by a group of volunteers. They started the whole thing as volunteers. They got a volunteer training program from the Royal Victoria Hospital in Montreal. I think there was already a program in Vancouver at that time. And these hospice volunteer programs were kind of popping up across the country in the mid-'80s. And there was a group here of activists that started the program, and they ran it for 3 years, recruiting and training volunteers and negotiating service agreements with hospitals and stuff like that to get access to clients. And they built the program just as volunteers. And then the United Way came along with a little bit of funding, and they were able to hire an executive director. And I was hired a few years later. That executive director left, and then I started working for Hospice Northwest. So I do feel like I was one of the initial people, for sure.
Indeed, 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. And in that time, the agency has grown. When I started my job, it was one part-time person. And then we've gradually grown. We only have 3 staff now, but we have about 200 volunteers, and we have satellite programs in the region. So we have a program in Nipigon, Terrace Bay, Scriber, Marathon, Manitouwadge, Long Lac, and Geraldton. So, and we serve about 350 clients a year. And we do that with only 3 staff.
Amazing. Amazing. And how many volunteers?
It's the volunteers that do the work. We have about 200 volunteers. Probably a little bit more than that when we count all the people in the region. And the regional programs are delivered partly by volunteers and partly by other organizations that are situated in those communities, family health teams and district hospitals.
There's so much more I want to ask, but we need to take a short break. Please stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Joan, you were lost for words.